When you tell people that you play mobile games, they tend to think one of several different things. You play Candy Crush, you play that cartoon game with little girls, or you're a pervert. And for the most part, the vast majority of us can relate to at least one of those things. What they don't think, however, is that games can have the depth of Path to Nowhere or Arknight's narrative, that they can have combat that is comparable to AAA console games. Now granted, most of them also have young characters, but that's just par for the course, I guess. Today, we're here to talk about a brand new gacha that was just announced a few days ago, a game that genuinely looks incredible enough to have shaken the Genshin fandom just a little, as people are already claiming this is Tower of Fantasy 2.0, the new Genshin killer. And while I don't think that's necessarily true, there's really no dethroning Genshin long term, I do think that this game has the capacity to captivate players and to retain their attention in what is arguably a gorgeous world with great looking characters and fast fluid combat. Hey, my name is Stix and welcome back to another episode of The Last Gacha You'll Ever Play, a brand new series that I've been doing detailing gacha games that I think are going to be incredible titles. If you enjoyed this series, make sure to like the video, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, hit that little bell notification because YouTube told me that if you don't, well, this might not be the last gacha that you'll ever play. Oh, and make sure to check out the last episode in this series at the end of the video. The games in this series could be absolutely incredible, so you'll want to remain up to date. Before we jump into this video though, I do want to take a moment here to thank all of our incredible patrons over on Patreon. Your support is absolutely incredible, and I cannot thank you all enough for being a part of this journey. Also, if you have a moment, consider following me over on Twitch. I stream gacha games here every weekend. I don't know how many of you recall 100 Soul, a gacha game from Hound 13 released back in 2020. In a genre that was largely dominated by autoplay, the studio decided it would be in their best interest to create a game that defied the norm, and 100 Soul came into being. This was a gacha game with little to no autoplay and was admittedly very ahead of its time. Fast forward to present day, there are Genshin clones around every corner, bright, vibrant anime gachas that lack the personality, the depth that Genshin has. With few exceptions, Arknight's Enfield, Seven Deadly Sins Origin, and Wuthering Waves, players really haven't had anything to look forward to that had the potential to really contest Genshin. Dragon Sword is touted as being the spiritual successor to an already largely successful game, Dragon Nest, an MMO released 2 decades ago, and generally considered to have some of the best combat and PvP in an anime MMO. With a history of quality games and a competent team of programmers, Dragon Sword has the unique potential to truly stand out amongst its competition. Typically, MMOs aren't really known for their well thought out narratives, and I'll admit the vast majority of gacha games aren't really either. And while I cannot confirm the quality of the narrative that will be present, the devs did confirm the story will play a very large part in the overall game. There will be plenty of cutscenes, characters to get to know. Whether those characters have a large impact on the game or are kind of just there as filler remains to be seen though. See, this I'm not entirely sure of. It's an online action RPG, which is a little vague because Genshin is considered an online action RPG, but so is Lost Ark and Blue Protocol, the latter two of which are most definitely MMOs. We can see 6, 7 other characters all engaging in combat with the player, so the MMO aspect might more closely resemble Tower of Fantasy, making it an MMO but on a much smaller scale. If it isn't an MMO, it most definitely has quite a large amount of multiplayer content, given the entire game is supposedly playable with groups of players. 100%. It'll feature full multiplayer dungeons, full multiplayer raids, full multiplayer story progression. Where Genshin prevents you from playing through the story cooperatively, Dragon Sword won't. Dragon Sword actually promotes playing with other people. Finding other competent people to play with, on the other hand, is likely going to be what most of us have trouble with. Dragon Sword isn't going to be 100% open world like Genshin Impact, like Tower of Fantasy, or like Wuthering Waves. Rather, it is going to have a lot of very large areas separated by small loading screens. So think something like Tales of Arise or Final Fantasy XIV. You'll be able to freely explore massive open areas, but segregation will be utilized. However, this shouldn't really be much of an issue, especially if you can run around for large lengths of time without phasing between loading screens. Character creation has not been confirmed at present, nor has a central character that we inhabit. What the single trailer leads us to believe is that we will be capable of alternating between pre-designed husbandos and waifus, each with their own respective weapons, strengths, and weaknesses. Maybe we'll be able to create a character and they'll kind of act as a conduit of sorts. Or there'll be someone like the Traveler from Genshin. Rarely in mobile games are we given the opportunity to actually create a character though, unfortunately. Yes, it definitely does. Dragon Sword actually has some of the best looking action combat in an upcoming gacha game. I know people look at the trailer and they automatically assume this is going to be like Genshin Impact. I've already seen comments like that in the comment section of my announcement video for the game. But this combat looks so much faster, so much more combo based, and honestly feels much more like a console quality system. Each character will feature their own weapon and associated fighting style. Every character will have their own abilities, their own utility, their own strengths and weaknesses. Not just that, but you'll be able to combo with other players to unleash some truly devastating attacks. Oh, and if you didn't see already, you can scale monsters. I don't know if that means that larger monsters are going to have specific weak points that we'll be able to take advantage of, or if it's just a cool addition to the gameplay. Nevertheless, it adds additional layers to an already incredible looking system. Thankfully, yeah, Hound 13 confirmed that Dragon Sword will be launching fully onto PC, Android, and iOS devices. What was not confirmed was a console release, which is surprising to me as this looks and feels like a console game. And I think disregarding consoles is going to severely inhibit the potential success of the title. I'm grateful that we'll be receiving it on PC, and I genuinely hope that that means that they're developing the game for PC in mind as well, as opposed to making it a cheap, low-effort mobile port. But I think that the more platforms they take advantage of, the better. Yes, Dragon Sword is being developed with a full global release in mind. More and more companies are beginning to develop games, gacha games, MMOs, single-player premium titles with a global audience in mind. It isn't an exorbitant amount of additional effort and allows for potential increases in total earnings by magnitudes that are too large to ignore. It is unconfirmed, however, whether the game is going to release in its country of origin first, with a global release at a later date, or if it'll instead feature a full, simultaneous global release around the world. It looks as though the game is going to be entirely free to play. There won't be any premium purchase required to access the game. Instead, it seems as though there will be microtransactions present, like the majority of gacha games currently available. I'm gonna be honest with you all, Dragon Nest, while a very fun, very popular MMO, was poorly mishandled and very pay to win. And while Dragon Sword might be the complete opposite, I'm the kind of person that looks at a studio's history before speculating, which leads me to believe that it has a very strong possibility of being or becoming pay to win eventually. And given the large number of players that are going to be capable of playing with you, it could have a direct impact on the overall game. Yes, a closed beta will definitely be held prior to its release. We have no expected beta date at present, as the devs haven't confirmed at what point in the year they even plan on holding it, and further, if the beta will even be playable this year. It's unlikely they'll hold a global beta test, but it isn't entirely out of the question, especially if they have expectations of launching the game globally as opposed to a singular region at first. Unfortunately, Dragon Sword does not have a confirmed release date specifically right now. People are speculating the game will release in 2023 as they have full gameplay, a list of characters, a lot of information has been made public, but that isn't a guarantee, which means that while it is definitely plausible, it is also equally as plausible to release in 2024. Yes, looking at the selection of characters present in the trailer, it seems as though the game is going to feature a gacha system. I know that isn't something that everyone is interested in, and that's more than fine, but at the end of the day, if you don't like it, you can just not play it. Gacha games are slowly becoming the future of gaming. Mobile, PC, and console, the gacha business model has reshaped the market, and like it or not, more games will continue to adopt this business model. So, might as well enjoy the better games out there that utilize it. Now, if you're interested in other absolutely incredible looking games that could drastically alter the course of the genre, check out my previous videos in the last gacha you'll ever play series, or alternatively, check out this video featuring every gacha game releasing this year. These are games that you should be playing.